Man, you good. You good, man. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, Chuck. I know you're a busy man, so it means the world to me that you took the time to sit down and holler at me.
Now I appreciate you even reaching out, man. This is an honor, man. When you mentioned to me about your father, man, rest in peace. Like, I knew who he was, and he what's funny is that I used to work at 100.3 The Beat right before he took over. So yeah, it
Oh,
was
wow.
V100, and like it went through
V100.
all the changes. So yeah, I'm definitely familiar with Kevin Fleming, man. Rest in peace, Kevin. Real instrumental piece, like KACE. Like I know, bro. I know.
Yeah.
Like so
Oh,
I'm a
man.
radio kid, man. So like I know.
You gonna make me cry, Chuck?
Nah,
Damn.
man, like nah. So
Thank you.
this is like lineage and legacy. So I'm familiar, bro, for sure.
Yeah. Long live Pops.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, man. So much. Well, thank you again for sitting down with me today. I want to dive straight into it with a few questions.
Know the
But
vibes. Back with another reaction for Cressel the Kid. Song's called Like You. Here we go. Turn it all the way up. All right, sitting around the table, mob boss style. Based on a true story. Uh-oh. Hey, that's fresh. Try and play games. I love the arcade. Oh, he on his Summer Smash thing again. The love song.
those who don't know, what is Homegrown Radio? How did it get started? And what has it evolved into today?
Well, I mean, Homegrown Radio is a platform that I created out of necessity, to be honest. You know, at a time where media and radio specifically weren't really supporting newer acts and newer artists, I felt like that was a perfect time for me to kind of fill that void. And not just myself, but just other individuals as well, like my boy DJ Hed and so many others as well that kind of were on the same like tip in terms of like supporting newer artists. Like I have a a background in radio, and what I learned from working at 100.3 The Beat and my time over at K-Day for a little bit is that you can't just get songs on the radio like you thought. You know what I mean? Like somebody can't just walk up to you on the street and give you their music and I can play it on the radio. That just doesn't happen. So as an intern, I learned this when I was getting my foot in the door doing radio, and I also had like a college show at the time. So Homegrown
Okay.
Radio was my college show that indirectly turned into this platform for us to showcase newer talent. So it's went through different transformations. So it started off as a college radio show, then it branched off into just an internet radio show. And then it kind of transformed into what we call as a podcast these days. We got picked up by Real 92.3 years later, and at this point now, we're no longer on Real 92.3 as Homegrown Radio, but it's a media platform that does the same thing, showcases new talent by way of podcasts, by way of just posting things on social media, and just, creating an avenue for those artists that are out there that may not be able to get the mainstream shine. We bridge that gap in between, supporting artists on the come up and watching them go to mainstream.
Excellent. I love it. Now, just for context, around what year was college and what university did you attend?
So I went to Long Beach State, man. And what was funny is that I graduated in 2005. So at the time when I had my radio show throughout the years of being there, it wasn't called Homegrown Radio. I forgot the name that I had at the time, but I kind of morphed the name in after I graduated. And I was one of those students where I stuck around. Like, even though I graduated, I still had the key card to the university. So I was still pulling up doing my radio show year in and year out until about 2008. They were like, you graduated a couple years ago. Well, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like,
you're trying to be like
okay.
a super duper senior,
yeah.
super senior.
Beyond super senior, but a lot of people knew what I was doing. They supported it and, they rock with it, but it just became more of a liability risk for the university. Like, okay, like we appreciate it. We love that what you're doing, but we can't have this happen. So that's why I kind of transformed to then kind of me picking up my stuff and taking the show into my apartment in 2008, 2009. That's when me and DJ Hed kind of linked up. He had brought a couple of artists through, like Glasses Malone, when I was at Long Beach State. He did a college show at Cerritos College, and we had a mutual friend that was like, yo, you guys support the same artists. You guys are in the same circles. Why don't you guys just do this thing together? Why don't you guys at least just meet? Because I knew who he was. He kind of knew who I was. He was like, why don't you guys just meet and kind of just see what this can become? And that started this bond and this friendship and this partnership from like 2008, 2009, when we got to the apartment. 2009 to 2012, we transitioned from the apartment to a couple of other facilities, and then landed at Real 92.3 around 2015.
Very dope. Okay. Now, when it comes to DJ Hed, I've watched him on many podcasts and been around him in the flesh many times. And the thing that dawned on me after Clap It Up, between the two of you brothers, you guys have a classic good cop, bad cop dynamic. And Chuck, I got to say, you're the good cop.
I was about to say, no spoiler alert. Am I the good cop? Or Definitely not the bad cop. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you have to speak on that as far as, how you guys carry yourselves and the things that you each facilitate as a duo and then individually for artists and for media and entertainment, the space that we occupy?
I think the interesting thing that you say about that, a lot of people recognize that, right? But more importantly, it's the chemistry that we have. You know what I mean? The good cop and the bad cop, but we're both authentic to who we are, right? So even if you're saying he's the bad cop, and I know it's no shot or anything, but that's just naturally who he is. He's a stone-faced individual. He's a robot. Like he cuts through. He tells it like it is. No training. Like that's what makes the dynamic interesting, which is me. I had, the traditional route of going through radio, and I was a little more polished. And naturally, when you come across, I'm more of a person that you can approach. I don't mind having conversations with individuals. And, I think that's what makes it interesting with us when it comes down to interviews. That's kind of how we balance both of our conversations. It's like, okay, well, I'll come in with this approach and you come in with this approach. And it wasn't something that we kind of spoke on, but I think that when people walked through, when people came through, whether it be the apartment or the radio station, they saw that dynamic as well. And I think they appreciated it. And ultimately, we both serve the same purpose of wanting to see our region win, wanting to see the people that we support be up there. Exactly. Straight West Coast and just more of those, like getting us to a space where, the masses can support it as well. You know what I mean? Because it's one thing to support us on the ground roots level, but it's like we want to help propel those artists and those individuals that have those storytelling capabilities to that next level, so the world can see why we supported them from jump. But in terms of like the chemistry and the dynamic, I think a lot of people appreciated that when they came through, when they were interviewed through us, and it just made for great conversation.
I love it. Absolutely. When you talked about the, 08, 09, you graduated college in 05. Okay, so 08 and 09, I'm in high school, right? Mm-hmm. At the time, This was like, not to make you feel old, because,
right.
Black don't crack.
Right.
You're still a young man. But around this time, this is like Lil Wayne mixtape era. This is, the double XL Freshman 10 changed my life.
Blog era, this is that
blog era, and this inspired me a lot personally. However, there weren't that many representatives of the West Coast, aside from shout out to Murs with what he did with Paid Dues and stuff. Did this light a fire under you to do something for artists from the city and from California, and get guys, who weren't getting recognized and put them in position?
Yeah, I mean, it was a lack of representation. You had at the same time. So just to kind of give people context, there were no shows or podcasts or things of that nature. You had what were websites and forums, right? So at the time, I don't know if you remember in high school, being out here, like Dub CNN was really popular in terms of
I remember
West Coast Ride, a salute and rest in peace to Tim Sanchez. He was responsible for that. And my girl Debbie Brown now, she had Zombie Radio, and that formed her relationship with, she ended up becoming an intern for the Goodfellas and then started working at K-Day. So it's like you had individuals that if you were from out here, you knew who to go and run to, and you knew who were feet on the ground. But at the same time, the representation, it wasn't a lot. So it was like we made sure that we all either came together, supported each other, figured out a way to at least help propel our artists. So it was literally out of necessity. And as these figures kind of started becoming bigger, it just, kind of gave life to itself, and more people, we realized that like more people in the world, thanks to the internet, love these artists as well. You know what I mean? And it kind of helped our platforms because we were the ones that, if you were in Germany and you loved Kendrick Lamar, you know what I mean? He was in my living room, you know what I mean? So it was like we got a chance to have those conversations that were a little different than maybe a magazine could have with them. Even if they did, make it to the double XL freshman cover or things of that nature, they kind of got exposed, but you would then see the receipts and like, oh, damn, these were their first interviews. This is their first time, doing showcases. Like I remember being at a Black Hippie show. It wasn't even a Black Hippie show. It was Kendrick, J-Rock, Schoolboy Q, and Ab Soul. And literally we're in a bar and salute my girl El Camille. She put the show on, and we're in a bar, and they're like elevated. I don't even know if it was a platform or a stage, but they were elevated at this spot, and whoever was in charge of the music messed up their music. So they're on stage like literally no music. People they knew who they were, but it was like it wasn't the fanfare that they are now. So I'm saying that to say like we were a part of a lot of their first moments in their first instrumental parts in their careers. One of the first interviews that we did with Kendrick was him changing his name from K-Dot to Kendrick Lamar. So it's like these little moments were so important. I think, those, grassroots, homegrown to say, no pun intended, like platforms, we all kind of like rallied together to make sure that we propelled our artists to kind of get them to the next level. But it was like I said, literally out of necessity to kind of make these things happen.
It's Pimpin' Palm, the Macam emoji, and we finna get into another review for Shang Manson out of North Las Vegas. The project is called Late Nights in the 5.0. And if you're ready to win, I suggest you come along with us to make America player again. All right, Palm Tree, let's get into this review. Shang Manson, Late Nights in the 5.0. All right. So this is super West Coast, mop up, make America player again. Now, that first radio skit, the imaging is fire. Okay.
Very dope. Now, what I want to learn from you is that fast forward to 2024, with the Drake and Kendrick beef, covered as, one of the biggest moments in hip hop history, biggest moments, largest beefs in 50 years. How did that play a role, on you in your position as like a radio PD and a personality? What do you do in that situation when someone you've known for a couple of decades or over a decade at this point is feuding with one of the biggest artists in the world? And, as far as LA radio, be it Real 92 or Power 106, you can always catch Drake on the air. But when one of our own is going at one of the biggest, how does this affect your day to day?
Well, I think the interesting part about this is that you're talking about somebody like Kendrick who does have like let's not play him down. Like he's somebody who's had who's had a significant impact in hip hop over the last 10, 15 years, right? And we saw his climb and his journey. So although the masses may not have put him at the top, we knew he deserved that spot. So it was just a matter of time when we seen these things over the years, like from his first BET show, or like when his album dropped and he did not even a release party, but he was outside the Laker game. Like that was an infamous moment, like celebrating that the album was out and they were on this platform driving throughout the city performing. You fast forward to the BET hip hop cypher, and then the Control verse. Like there's been moments where we've seen Kendrick elevate throughout the years where it's like we're championing, we're rooting. And I say that to say that in 2024, when you have this rivalry going on, it's no doubt that we're going to support our own, but at least what helps is that he has the resume to back it up. We're not talking about insert unknown independent artist that's going against one of the heads. It's like, no, this is somebody who actually can have that spot. So from a homie level and from a supporter from the jump, we're gonna always have his back, right? And on our end, it's like we're telling people behind the scenes and behind the doors. Like I remember when Drake started releasing the first couple of records, I was like, yo, I got a problem playing this, like because I have a relationship with him. But I have a job to do here. So my thing personally, I was just like, look, I like the back and forth between them. Certain things I didn't really care for that Drake did. And so when it came time to playing those records, it was just like, I'm not gonna overhype something that I don't really genuinely like. Like the Push Ups record, I was like, okay, damn, hey, yo, Kendrick, we waiting on you, bro. Like, we got to see what's going on. And I remember the messaging that I would put behind it is like, yo, just wait when he does drop. I know the world's doing the countdown right now, but wait when he does drop. And then, a couple weeks later, history has been made. But I think more importantly, just stay. For me, it was just no matter what my position is, stay genuine and stay authentic to myself. Like, even though these are two heavyweights in the game, I'm gonna side with who I side with and who I support with, which obviously is hometown, which is obviously Kendrick Lamar. But be authentic with the conversation as well and be able to kind of go back and forth and play it up. But at the same time, like, yo, we're not gonna go for this. You know what I mean?
Right. So as far as your airwaves, can you tell me like what impact Not Like Us did on your rotation?
Man, instantly, like we're a year after that song is dropped, little right. Over a year.
May 2024. Yeah,
exactly, May 2024, right? And that song is, I literally just got off a music meeting right now, and there's like, yo, this song, for people that don't know, they test research records to make sure like these songs are still ones we should keep in rotation and which ones we should kind of like get in and out. They're like, yo, Not Like Us, I don't think it's going to go down anytime soon. It's still up there. So it's had a significant impact. It's put Kendrick Lamar in a space where, we were already playing him, but it was like instead of 2 or 3 records, now we have 5 different records that we can play from him. And it just gives him a visibility that it just increases the visibility that he's in the presence he's had on LA radio. Because again, like DJs and personalities like myself, any opportunity that we can, get in a record, we would do. You know what I'm saying? But now it's like, okay, cool. This is top rotation. Boom, no excuses. No different than, years before, even now, like, right? There's certain top tier artists that no matter what, they drop a song, radio's gonna jump on it. They're gonna at least try to play it. Versus sometimes with artists that are coming up, it's a little more research involved. They got to make sure is it risk worthy? Is it gonna is gonna keep the listener's attention? So the Beyoncés, Rihanna, The Weeknd, Drake. There's certain artists where it's like, okay, they drop. J. Cole is like, they drop. We're going to throw it in rotation because we already know that they have a proven formula where the listener loves it, right? Kendrick Lamar is now in that. So it's like, and I think that has helped because of Not Like Us, because now this is a proven method. Like, you see him perform this song at the Super Bowl. It has lasting power, is my point.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of rap beefs, Chuck, I want to talk about kind of the West Coast and LA's reaction to Joey Badass. This is too much West Coast eggplant licking comment.
Right.
And now a lot of MCs have come up out of the woodwork, such as Rayvon Reason, who we were with on Saturday.
Right.
And the list goes on to fire back at him. How do you feel about this? Do these diss records from smaller artists still make it on your airwaves? Break it on down to me.
Well, for me, yes, because I make sure that no matter what, I still try to highlight who's up there and who's not, right? So I was looking at it the other day. I think it's been 30 songs that's been dropped since 30. January, right? Since that song you were talking about, the Joey Badass one, too much West Coast D-licking, since that song till, what's today? The 22nd. The 22nd, there's been at least, and there's probably more, at least 30 records exchanged back and forth. And we're talking from not only Joey Badass, like you said, Rayvon, Reason, shout out to Daylight. I've seen the homie K-Boy drop something, actually a couple of records. Lil Poppy, he was one of the first people one of the first ones to respond when Joey Badass did it the first time. The list goes on. Curtis King, there's a few, and there's a couple of either from a couple of people from the East Coast as well that are just kind of throwing their names in the bag. And K Cash, CJ, there's a few people. My point is, when it comes to me, I like to highlight those that may not get that shine. So you'll hear it from me, but you won't hear it in a rotation, right? So for me, I can feature it as a segment on my show, but it's not going to be something that's going to be played on, every hour on the hour, because of, the type of beef that it is and who it is. It's not like a Kendrick and Drake. So it's not something that when Kendrick and Drake happened, we were on it damn near every hour on the hour with each song that was dropping and kind of highlighting it in real time. Whereas this one it's it's not as can't think of the word, but it's you're not dealing with two heavyweights, right? So in this sense, it's just like, okay, this is just a part of the news cycle. In hip hop, it's the biggest story in hip hop for sure. But you got to think with radio,
next to the Diddy trial.
Next to the Diddy trial, man, it's like there's other things that are happening in the news cycle that we kind of have to cover, and we have to kind of talk about it. In terms of music, I don't think everybody's going to be running to the station to listen to, and there's no knock on Joey Badass, but nobody's running to the station to listen to a Joey Badass song because, for one, he's not from here, right? So it's a different dynamic. And then two, the artists that we're speaking on, they haven't quite broke through, right? That you can connect the reasons and the TDE, the reasons and Ray Vons to the connections through TDE, and you can make a story out of it, but there's only certain times that you can actually talk about that. Speaking from a macro level in terms of like radio and news cycle, if that makes sense. Like TMZ is going to be talking about the beef, right? But, you know, is ABC going to be talking about it? Probably not.
No.
You know, is NBC going to be talking about it? Probably not. Complex is going to cover it, right? But, you know, it's not going to get the major coverage. So it's like radio's in that dynamic where it's like we live in the worlds of all that. Although we're hip hop, we still got to keep the attention of the masses of passive listeners and people that probably don't even know this beef is going on. How do we keep them listening to the next songs and the next songs and the next, you know, things that are happening on the radio station?
Well, let me ask you this. Outside of radio, you know, Joey Badass hails from Brooklyn, represents Pro Era, and this is more of he has more of the throwback sound of the golden age of hip hop, you know, the boom bap, backpack, 90s reminiscent type of thing. And while LA is notorious for the gang violence and the gang politics, and I'm not trying to make a blanket statement saying that's what we're all about, but let's not act like it doesn't exist.
Correct.
Do you expect that Joey is going to be good on the coast, or will he have to check in? And then, you know, what are your predictions for the future of Joey Badass's safety and longevity out here or anywhere else?
I think he'll be fine, man. This is not one of those disrespectful moments where he's like just blatantly going out and disrespecting. Even the West Coast D-League, and that was a play on a Jay-Z line. And even I was talking to somebody about that. They were like, yeah, even when Jay-Z said it, it was more or less bigging y'all up because, yo, let's be honest, the West Coast is undeniable. So everybody else, why are you trying to sound like them when you clearly have your own identity? And I think that Joey Badass was playing off of that. Now, let's be honest. I'm sure there was a little baiting in there as well, you know, wordplay to try to get at Kendrick, and that's fine. But I think for them, it's more of a competitive thing. Even when we saw Absol with Joey and kind of called him out, it was a playful back and forth. My concern is just making sure that it doesn't spill over outside of that. And even from people that I've talked to and the people that have dropped records, even though some of the things that they may be saying are like brash and like, ooh, damn, you may have crossed the line or that's kind of disrespectful. I think a lot of people are just keeping it on music and just leaving it there. To be honest, I think the battle's over, man. I think After Daylight kind of dropped that last record, you know, giving props to Capital Steez. I kind of think that's where the line is drawn. It's done with. Joey's not going to have a problem out here because he has too many people that love and respect him, especially on the home front in terms of like hip hop. I don't think it's going to go beyond that. But, you know, it was great competition, great conversation, great for hip hop, great for rap. And just anybody outside of that, I think my bigger message is to understand where entertainment lies. It's just strictly entertainment. You know what I mean? I think one thing that he did understand though was like, oh damn, I got to be careful with my words because I don't think he realized how many other people were gonna jump in and you know throw shots his way and did some big, small, or whoever. It's just like, oh, okay, you know. I was talking to somebody the other day, the common theme about the West Coast, right? We talk about unity and, you know, there's things that can be improved on the coast. But one thing for sure is that if you disrespect us, we're going to take it there in terms of like banding together. So people that may not have even got along or might not have done music together or even from a politics level, streetwise, like there's a common enemy right now. Just like there's no difference. There's a common enemy when anybody comes out here and that's a transplant, right? I don't care where you run from. If you're from the OC, if you're from the Valley, if you're from South Central, if anybody's talking shit about LA, that's a transplant here, we all can agree and say, yo, you need to get the fuck out. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So, yeah. That's pretty much if they're from Southern California or LA County, like we don't stand up.
So it's the same analogy. It's like, that shot was thrown, everybody banded together, and it's like, okay, all right, back and forth. It's over. It's done. We can keep it hip hop. We can keep it rap, but I don't think it's gonna go beyond this. I honestly think it's gonna
Yeah.
fizzle out in the next couple of weeks to a couple of months, and he's gonna be good out here. I don't think it's that serious.
No, I don't. It's like, hey, I don't care if you're from Pasadena, Gardena, Glendale, or Glendora. We gonna ride.
LA in 5.
LA in 5. Yeah, exactly. All right, man. Okay, so over the years, you put on for a lot of people from the West Coast and sparked off their careers, from Nipsey to YG to Kendrick. How do you feel about people saying that, LA radio stations, not talking about homegrown or real, but how do you feel about people saying LA radio stations don't show enough love to West Coast artists?
I mean, you can even throw all the other radio stations in that same bucket. I mean, to be honest, if you saw, and this comes with information and knowledge, right? If you saw the playlist of a radio station out here in LA in 2008 versus now, you would say otherwise. I think we have to think about songs that are out there, first of all, understanding what the DJ and the radio personality's job is and what their responsibility is and what they can and can't do, right? And I say that to say, even at those times when I was on LA radio, I couldn't just throw songs on the radio. I've done it and I got reprimanded for it. I got situations. In some cases I got let go. So I've played my part in doing that, but I realized it, in one instance, it was worth it because of the moment. But at the same time, it pulled me out of the building. So how effective can I be to LA radio, being from LA, Carson, but being from LA when I'm not in the building to make these changes and be the guy to suggest, hey man, we should play this. I remember working at K-Day and being like, yo, these TDE niggas, we got to get up on them. I know them. They've been to we got to bring them up here. And in the moment, it didn't make sense because the station was going through a transition where it was playing more, as somebody that understands radio, it was going from an urban format to urban AC. So it was, for the people that don't understand it was going to more of an older demographic, right?
Yeah, and from a more hip hop to an R&B.
More hip hop. And on top of that, they were going to more classic hip hop. So they weren't really worried about newer artists. But you had, Devi Dev, who was the music director at the time, pushing and gunning, and salute to the homie AD because he's from Long Beach and he understood it as well. But it's like AD? He had Adrian. No, he's from Long Beach. No, not AD. Okay. Adrian. Oh my God, I can't think of his last name.
I'm thinking community.
Nah, that's the homie. Salute to
Shout out to AD, man.
Yeah, no, oh my God, I can't think of his last name. He's gonna freaking, oh my God, but yeah, AD, the former PD over at K-Day, he's from Long Beach and he knew to cultivate these relationships to get people in the door, but it was only so much that he could do. So, he would make it work out wherever he could and, sprinkle certain songs here and there. But my point is look at the current people that are on air and look at what they're doing. No, you may not get a song that's in rotation every single hour on the hour. It's not going to be a whole flooded playlist of LA artists, but there's a lot more. I mean, even think of now, I getting prepared for my show tonight, we got Shoreline Mafia that's on. We got EKE and True Car that's now gotten in rotation. We got the homie Mark Lux, who, he's amazing. He's from Bellflower. His record just got added into rotation. And those are not aside from Shoreline Mafia, those are the other two artists that I just named. They're on the come up, right? They're not major artists right now. So the idea of their songs being on air is a huge improvement, and then obviously we have the Kendricks, you know what I'm saying? I can keep on going, but my point is that there's more LA artists on LA radio now than there were then at a time where it was super quiet. So when I hear those accusations, when I hear that the arguments, I understand, but it's I'm not going to sit here and act like it's not. I'm not going to sit here and act like there's not an improvement. I tend to focus on what's working. What do we have right now? Let's celebrate what's going on. Let's celebrate the fact that, and it's not about me, but let's celebrate that you have somebody like myself that's still on the radio. At the time when Hed was on, let's celebrate somebody that was, screaming West Coast at the time and being a DJ. And he was on with Bootleg Kev at a point in time, doing a night show. Me and him did the night show for some time, and he, was waving a flag for West Coast artists and getting them in the building. So it's when you do have individuals like that are willing to put their job on the line and risk and fight for artists, I think you appreciate it. You know, even Big Boy, him interviewing, he just interviewed well, he's not from LA, but Miles Minnick, right? The Christian artist with Lecrae, like, and he's from the West Coast, so that's why I'm bringing him in here. But Big Boy has those conversations with those artists from the O3 Gritos and you know, just anybody that's making noise out here. You know, collectively as a station, and salute to the Crew Show, they do an amazing job of showing love to artists as well as they come up from. I can keep on going. My point is, there's different ways that we can support as well. Sometimes it might not be throughout the airwaves. It might be on social media. So
Right.
we may not play a record, which I understand some arguments on that, but it's like, you know, we'll grant you that interview and give you the platform, or you can come up and do a freestyle. There's many other ways to support. I think that's the overall message that I kind of want to put out there, man. Like, even from myself, it's like there's plenty of ways that we, and I'm speaking as radio people, can support you other than just playing your song on the radio. So tap into that. See the artists that are actually pulling up to the shows. You know what I'm saying? Not the artists, the radio personalities that are actually pulling up to the shows. You know what I mean? Like, that are actually supporting those that are coming up and can help navigate them through this process of, you know, getting their songs played and getting them on air. Again, I understand the critique. Can it be better? Of course, but it's like, let's not act like nobody's getting played. You know what I mean? Let's not act like there's no support out there. And, you know, that's kind of where I'll take it.
I think, Chuck, this was a good reminder to celebrate what we do have and not be, you know, frowny faced about like what we don't.
Right.
Okay. I'm glad you brought up O3 Greedo and Shoreline Mafia, because having witnessed their whole come up, you know, with Shoreline going back to 2016 up until today, and then, you know, the rise of like Draco, God rest his soul,
Rest in
and
peace, yeah.
Sting Team. And, you know, I got the last interview with Catchy the Great before he passed away.
Wow.
But with this whole new LA wave, how did that affect, you know, how did Homegrown respond to this? And then how did that affect radio overall when the sound of West Coast hip hop, as we know it, the sound and look changed from the khakis, white tee and the 6-0 to the, you know, the Stink Team motto, if you will, or model, excuse me.
I think you just try to embrace what you can over time. And I'll be the first to say, I'm not as familiar with the newer wave as I probably should be, but it's like I have an open mind. Like we did interview Draco, you know, before he passed, and you know and at the same time, that was around the time that kind of COVID was here, so we weren't able to get him in the building. And that was one thing I'm like, damn, I kind of wish we would have had that in-person one-on-one or the in-person interview, just to and have that conversation so he understood kind of where our place is within the culture. But I think when anytime you have change, for me, again, personally, you embrace it. So while the system or people might not be open to it, it's like, for me, I look at it as that's even more reason for me to keep beating on those doors. Yeah, you might not get it today. And I look at the TDE movement as the same way. Like, nobody understood it in 2009, 2010, but of course the world sees it now. So I use that as an example of like why it's important to support artists as they're coming up. You know what I mean? Because you just never know who's going to be that next person. And especially if you just don't like the music or whatever the case, that's one thing. But it's like, yo, if I'm not a fan, I see the impact that it's having on the region. Yo, we're gonna lift it up. Like, we're gonna support it. We're gonna make sure that, you know, we either try to post it on the site, post it on social media, or do our job as far as elevating it as much as we possibly can, however that looks. But in terms of like radio specifically, since there's so many parameters that you have to go within, it's like, all I can do right now is to present the new music. So present it. You know what I mean? Like, give it that cosign and say, yo, this is what the streets is listening to right now. This is what's coming up right now. These are the newer artists. Yeah, I know you don't know this. I know the social media isn't there. The engagement is there. But trust me, when you see the shows or you see the impact, you know, trying to convince them to understand what something is before it is. And that's always been my jacket. I've always worn it. I've always tried to do that in some capacity or another. So it's like I think it's no difference when it comes to that. It's like you just try to do what you can to kind of like usher in the new sound and the new wave. You just embrace it, to be perfectly honest.
I love that. Okay. All right. Before we wrap up here, my man, what is a day in the life of Chuck Dizzle like?
All right, so a day in the life of Chuck Dizzle is beautiful chaos. And what I mean by that is like literally 4 a.m. I get up, I try to, get my mind right, read a little devotional if I can. If not, I'm going to the gym. By the time I get out the gym, I come home and hop in the shower. Then it is getting my kids ready for school. All right. I
How
got
many
two
kids you got?
sons. I got two
Oh, two sons.
sons.
Okay.
One is gonna be 7, and another one just turned 2. So the dynamic in
Terrible
both
twos.
of them is crazy. So after we get them off to school, come back home, look at get prepped for the shows that I have. So I'm not only here in LA at Real 92.3, but pretty much all the urban radio stations across iHeartMedia. I'm on them in some capacity or another. We're talking urban, we're talking classic hip hop. So I get my shows ready for that. Try to get some content out of the way, because it's the day and age of content, chopping up shit, looking at past interviews, trying to schedule interviews. And hopefully I can get a nap in by the time my kids come back home from school. Me and my wife, if we got some extra time, we'll go to the movies, do some stuff for us before the kids come home. My wife is a chef, so she has a flexible schedule as well.
Nice.
So it's like we don't have traditional 9 to 5s where we have to go in. And even since like COVID, I don't have to go into the radio station like I used to before. So that's provided a lot of flexibility with my time. But I'm on the call a lot. So it's like it's literally stuff like this, scheduling interviews, doing interviews with individuals that reach out between now and like 2, pick up my sons. One of them has baseball, so we got pictures for baseball after this. Do some homework, get them in bed, and then repeat the cycle the next day. It's literally day in, day out. That's pretty much what it is. If there's events going on, obviously I schedule that after the kids go to sleep. Try to hit a couple of events throughout the week. On the weekend, I try to tend to keep that more family oriented, but life is life and things happen. But it's literally a daily thing from 4 a.m. to 10 at night, nonstop, whether it's work, family, wife and kids, and or just trying to have some personal time as well.
That does sound like beautiful chaos to a T, my friend.
That's exactly what it is. Like
Exactly.
even as soon as we hop off, I gotta go pick up my son because today is early day. I just realized it in the middle of the interview. I'm like, oh damn, he doesn't get picked up at 3 today. He gets picked up at 2. So gotta do that as soon as we hop off. And don't worry about it. We're all good. He's close over here, so we're good.
Cool. All right, I'll leave you with 1.5 last ones. Mm-hmm. Do you know if any like physical like parties, functions, DJs who do like shows or nights at bars and clubs do like all West Coast, like you could hear just, Draco and Kendrick and Shoreline and O3 and Conrad from the Abs and just hear that and that's it all night long?
Not that I know of. The closest thing that I could think of, and this might be a reach because it's a showcase. It's not just like a night at a club or a bar, but it's Payday LA, which they support a lot of local acts. Why? Hold on. The Payday LA, they do a showcase for newer artists. Now, I don't know about the DJ. Like when I was hosting it at the time, I knew the DJ did spin a lot of the newer music that from the artists, and I know they had a playlist and stuff like that. But in terms of like a bar, the person that would have the answer for you would be DJ Artistic, because he's the one.
Right. Shout out to my man.
DJ Artistic is somebody that's tapped in to the point where that motherfucker's like an encyclopedia, bro. Like I love DJ Artistic because not only a lot of people don't know he's a producer, right? Yeah. So he has a producer sense, but he's also a DJ, and he's just a fan of the culture. He spent some time over, and I'm gonna mess it up, but I'm gonna say in Florida. He did. He's went to college in Florida, so he has the whole HBCU.
He went to Florida A&M.
Okay, I didn't want to say Florida State. That's why.
Shout out to my HBCU people. I went to Hampton.
There we go. So he went out there. So I think if anybody would know, he would be the person to know, because he's more in the circuit of like the club scene. And to be honest, I don't know if that's something that the venues would even want, if it makes sense. You know what I'm saying? I think it'd be dope to try it. My thing is like, try it and see what happens. If you know of any, I would love to hear about it. Are you familiar with any?
Yeah. You know what? What's it called? Hood Fantasy with DJ, what is his name? Ashton McCrate at Broadway Bar downtown.
Really? Okay.
He be doing his thing. But
it's
the reason I ask is because I don't know that many.
That's what I'm saying. Is it so it's new artists all night? Like that's what it's promoted as? Or is it he just doing his own set at an open bar?
No, he does his own set at a regular bar.
It's not promoted as that though.
No,
it's not promoted. DJs at a night at Broadway Bar and does his own thing. It's not promoted as that.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. It could be other DJs that do the same thing. I'm just not familiar with it in that sense. And that's why I said the only person that probably would know that's in that circuit would be DJ Artistic. But I'm interested to hear about that.
If it were me, I would just do like West Coast all up and down from different eras all together. I'm talking about from Quick and Sugar Free and
Absolutely.
Snoop and Pac and Dog Pound and Warren G to Murs and Living Legends and Hieroglyphics and Alcoholics to Shoreline and Greedo and Stink Team and I do everything in between and Tyler and Odd Future and all that. You know?
Start it. Do it. Only reason why I say
you hit me with the Sam Jackson and Pulp Fiction. Do it. I double do it. I do it again.
Only reason I say it for two reasons. Because one, you have a conviction for it that many others might not get and might not have for it, right? The reason why I say that is because in radio, I hate, let me just put it out there. I hate West Coast Wednesdays, by the way. When radio stations do it.
Man. I'm done with the West Coast Wednesdays. It should be West Coast all the time out here.
It should be West Coast all the time. But specifically the reason why I hate it was because at a time when we were doing it and I was working at KD at the time and we were doing West Coast Wednesdays, and while I was on air, we was promoting it, and all the calls that I would get were artists that weren't from the West. And that just showed me that, it's not about what I want. It's about what the consumer wants. What does the consumer really want? And how do I find those consumers, right? So for youth, I think that the dope part about this now is find other people that are just as convicted as you are about this, that would want to pull up and pay $10, $15, $20 or, just want to be around to hear that type of music because it sounds good, right? It's saying West Coast Wednesdays and promoting this, it sounds good. But in reality, when the consumer, the mass consumers, me and you are different because we're unique. We know behind the cloth. We know what's going on, right?
Hey Chuck, what's your sign?
I'm a Taurus.
Okay. Oh, happy belated.
Thank you, brother. The average person, they don't know. Like if you go outside today, do this experiment. Go outside today and ask somebody that you randomly see on the street, name me 5 upcoming artists from the West Coast, and just see what they say.
That'd be great content.
And what that shows you is where we are, and do again, ask a few different people and just see what it is. And I learned that because with radio, same thing. It's like I now pay attention to when people change the radio dial and what content they subconsciously just listen to. Like sometimes it's not even about the music, it's just about music being on, right? Or a familiar song that they like. And that's what I have the hardest time understanding when it comes to radio. I'm like, yo, but if we play new music and if we just played it enough times, yeah, that's true. But you might not get those listeners because they want to hear the familiar songs. They want to hear passive listeners. They want to hear those familiar songs. They don't give a fuck about if it's something that's unfamiliar, they're not going to listen to it. And I've seen radio data where that shit tips off when it comes down to new music, right? I'm gonna tell you something off air, okay? I'm not gonna say it on here because I don't want to put anybody on blast. Or this is not what it is. But
got you.
That was the hardest as a radio personality. That was the hardest thing the hardest pill to swallow. It's like, damn, like radio. I heard this term and it fucked me up. Listeners, when it comes to radio, they're called listeners. It's not what they actually do.
Deep.
They don't actually like just when you're out and about. Watch people as they consume music and listen, right? Specifically to the radio and just watch their interactions and how when they listen to songs, is it their favorite song? Like, are they, you know what I mean? Like, and now with devices, we can literally hear the songs that we want to hear on demand. So it's not gonna say it's no need for it, but we have more passive listeners than we do like active listeners that are listening for music specifically, right? They're listening for the contest. They're listening for the prizes, maybe the personalities, how they intro and outro music and the conversations that they have. And of course the music drives it, but it's more passive listeners than they are like, you know, oh, I gotta hear it. And it's not, I want to hear that new O3. I want to hear that new Stink Tank. I want to hear that new, you know, right now, sorry, Kendrick is the guy. So like that's the closest thing we have. And even now you got people that's like, damn, it's too much Kendrick on the radio. Like, but he's one of ours. So it's like he's entered that layer of that type of artist now. He's crossed over. You know?
And even me, like I'm, you know, one of the most, if you play a song twice in a row, or if I've heard that song more than once a day, I'm like, yo, skip track. But like there's something magical about GNX when that album is just so rich in gems that it's like I just don't mind. Like I'm like, Kendrick, do your thing, man.
Do your thing,
go ahead and
man.
eat.
But again, you are somebody that's not the typical listener as well. You know
True.
What I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like you're convicted, you know?
Okay. Last but not least, I promise. And speaking of me, when I think about people who have platforms, Palm, A Day in LA, Homegrown Radio, Giggles Irene, The China Show, Rosecrans Media, Back on Fig, Community, all of us are kind of like cousins. Okay, what advice do you have to me or somebody like me who is in this space doing the media company thing?
You're not gonna want to hear it because it's gonna sound cliche. Man. No, that's not even bad. It's not. Yeah. Don't stop. I think the biggest thing that you can do is literally like, and I've seen it from personal experience of like when I've kicked my feet up to when I have my shit on the gas, right? To when I was consistent with shit, to when I was like, for me now, like, and I think I mentioned it on Clap It Up LA, there's a sense now that I look at it, it's like, damn, the seeds that we planted is flourished. Like there's, like you said, multiple platforms that do the same thing. Whereas before we had a hard time thinking about 2 or 3 and only locally we knew who they were. It wasn't like somebody in a different city or state can tap into it. It was literally some local shit. So now I look back and I'm proud of like the seeds that were planted. My advice to you guys would be don't fucking stop. Keep your foot on their necks, right? And be open to the next sound because it's gonna change and you're gonna be the old head at some point, right?
Right.
So when the new sound or the new wave, new crop of artists come in, don't be so hell bent on, man, I just want to protect. Yeah, you can protect them.
Preserve my era, yeah.
Preserve your era. That's great. But who's the new cat that's coming in? Because if not, you're doing a disservice and you're just basically unraveling all the hard work that we all have done. You know what I mean? It's a privilege that we have so many. It's hard for us to even think of. It's a privilege for you to even say that there's a DJ that actually does that, like spinning nothing but new music. That's dope as fuck. I want to know who he is, right? Or who she is. We need to know about these spaces and these venues that are allowing people to do that so we can just continue to produce and multiply so that if I fall back or if I can't, you know, my platform for whatever reason, like my YouTube channel gets demonetized or gets thrown off or my social media gets taken down. All right, cool. You still got Rosecrans Media. You still got Giggles Irene. You still got, you know what I'm saying, Palm. You still got all of these other platforms that are still going to wave that flag and still preserve the artists that are coming up. And you might have a different take on a specific genre of artists within this, right? You might not, if you think about it, you probably lean more towards a certain crop of artists versus another crop of artists that are coming up, right? You could probably go a little harder when it comes to supporting, and another platform could go harder for them than they do the artists that you support. And then there's probably those that you guys both kind of support as well, but it's like everybody's platform is important in that sense.
Well, after Clap It Up, and thank you so much for the reminder of don't stop trying, because you remember how the first question I asked was like, man, the words fuck this shit run through my head like the banner on CNN, you know? So procrastination kills, number one, but this was just such a reminder to get back on the horse. And if you fall, get back on that thing again and again and again. Don't worry about the view count. Don't worry about the likes. Hell, don't even worry about get your bills paid on time, but don't worry about money, because when you want to fight for something, hip hop or cultural preservation or your spot out here, fight.
Absolutely. And on the other side of that, the artist needs you, bro.
Yes.
It's necessary. If you're not going to fight for like the art, and I tell artists all the time, it's just whoever's, you know, has that critique or complaint, yo, start your own platform, do your own thing, you know, build that shit up. You know what I mean? Don't sit here and worry about why you can't get interviews over here or over there, or you can't perform here. Man, start. That's why I was so proud of LA Ray for having an LA Ray experience and putting on her own show, right? It's like, that's important. So again, don't stop. That banner is going to continue to run in your mind, like seeing it. It's going to happen. Like you can't. That's one thing I want to, like. That's one myth I want to break. When you have these, when you're convicted with something like this, you have these passions. That doesn't mean you don't just get discouraged. It happens all the time. You know what I mean? Now it's on you. As if, like you said, you fall off. What do you do after that? You going to stay down? You let the next person come up and do their thing, and if so, then cool, get out the way, and it's no problem with that, right? But it's like, yo, continue to, if you still have a passion for this shit and you feel like you can do this in a way and provide something that nobody else is doing, I would put that to the forefront. What are you doing that nobody else is doing within this space that can then inspire us to be like, damn, no, that's fire too. I like the way he did that showcase or that show.
When I first started, the fire that lit under me is I looked up to guys like Nardwar, Anthony Fantano, and Adam 22. What do they all have in common? They're white dudes. And I'm like, yo, I came up looking up to the Pitchfork and the Fader, and I went to a small private school in Pasadena, you know, with a bunch of hipster white kids. Yeah. But at the same time, I was checking Two Dope Boys and Mascarilla every single day, and getting into all these underground rappers and listening to stuff on the Tony Hawk soundtracks. And I'm like, if they can be talking about Lil Wayne here, they being Two Dope Boys can talk about Lil Wayne here and Brother Ali there, and it's like, that's a world of a difference. I want to do something like that. And same when I started interning with Hip Hop DX in 2017, I wanted to do something like that. So that was always, like I said, my mission, to bring all of these different scenes together, you know, under one palm tree. And that's what I'm here to do.
Yeah, but no, I would definitely encourage you to keep doing that, man. Keep that fight up, because, you know, the culture needs you. I think it's important that you just don't take that flag out and continue to plant that flag, and in turn, you're gonna inspire somebody else to do the same thing. And when you have those moments, if you haven't already, when you have those moments, that's gonna light a different fire under you.
Exactly. Chuck, I want to thank you so much for your time, man. I feel inspired. You know, I've been doing interviews for many, many, many years, and this instantly became one of my favorite.
Wow.
I definitely appreciate this conversation, man. And I can't wait to, you know, fellowship with you more and rub shoulders some more. So blessings to you and your family, brother, for real.
Man, thank you. I'm honored. I'm humble, bro. And again, consider me a resource, bro. You got my number. So if anything pops up that you like, man, yo, I don't understand this, or damn, anything, bro, just tap in. That's what I'm here for.
Most definitely.